Yeah, it's interesting. You having to understand scientific elitist, like what on Big Bang Theory, where they have all those debating monkeys that get together and what's his face, well they have the Brandeis thing, the this, the that, the what's other, Sheldon has those pictures of all those debating monkeys, debating monkeys. The Darwinians getting together with the people that are the book collectors and believe the book's unequivocal. Oh no, it was inspired by God. It's like, guys, don't you think if people are manipulative and addicted to feeling powerful so they can manipulate others, they're going to take stories of truthful people and turn them into bullshit. So you all, but the interesting, the cool thing about Book of Daniel makes a lot of sense because you understand it, right? It's World War II, and you read it and you go, "Oh my gosh!" And it's somebody from our present and future talking to someone in our past about what's happening. Why is this all happening? This is horrible. Is it going to get any better? No, it's going to get worse. Okay. Worse? Yeah, worse. But it was horrible back then. Oh, I admit it was horrible back then. But you could get up and you could migrate and you could go to Jericho and you could get away from the Egyptians. And the Egyptians didn't have, I can see those fighter planes and those $100 bills slapping them down, 100, 200, right? Bullet the blue sky, bullet the blue. You could get up and you could leave. And you could hack it out in the wilderness. And you could start again. Can we start again, please? Right? And I think you've made your, let's before it gets too frightening, we have to call a halt. Can we start again? And it got harder. One of the biggest evidences of it getting harder to migrate away and being this great threat to the great, great people was the trek of people called the Latter-day Saints, okay, of the Book of Mormon, okay, Moraman, which is a story of the history of the Mobile people. Yes, what they've labeled the book and the story about where they had encounters between the Europeans and indigenous people that were trying to be religious. And they did, yes. Okay, they were quote Algonquin speaking. They were the southern cousins to the Five Nations in the north, okay? They were not cannibalistic, okay? They had just like the Jerichos and they had walled. They got logs and they built logged house communities to keep them safe from aggressive other people, where they could live in a community inside that. They had a two houses. They were the women and the female. What would happen is the women had a council and the men had a council, and the women would select the men that were good protectors and had good, that could help the other men be good. Is a lot like the priesthood and the Relief Society, which is more like the original form of government that Benjamin Franklin wanted to draft for the United States because he studied the Haudenosaunee, the Algonquin-speaking people of the East Coast. Another person that wrote books about it and thought we could learn a lot from these people was a man named Sir Thomas More. Have you ever read Utopia? Okay. That's about what lots of people encountered, okay? But there was all that aggressive, yes. There was aggressive violence, but what curtailed a lot of aggressive violence and put them into a lot of very civilized groups where they could go Christianize and do the things that the missionary work and stuff that they did, was the two part was the women and the men, the balance of the women and the men. It wasn't so much governing. It was where you get all these people. It takes a village to raise him. Yeah, it's easier to get a bunch of people that are civilized and care about each other's families as much as they care about their own, to protect people from people that are trying to violently sex cult eradicate your seed off the face of the planet. Yes, okay, that is true. Okay. But the thing about it is that's not happening. Okay, people will say that. Right now, the civilization is destroying the family, because the civilization's virtual presence has replaced the family with their expertise, their authority, and their power. The family, like I used to do with Nate Reynolds, the Navy SEAL, and lockup with the kids in Wyoming. No, just give them the right things, and then just let cuckoo, cuckoo, I'm Crush. No, just give the kid the right thing, and then just kind of turn them loose. And Nate talked about it when I first got there. He said, we should be able to have a dance between the guys' houses and the girls' houses. Okay. And then just have it mostly just chaperoned, but not policed. And I said, yeah, that's the ultimate. That's where we want to get. We want to get where we can be better than John or whatever his name was, Gomez Adams on West Side Story, which I had watched West Side Story by then. Yeah, I had, because Amy had me watch West Side Story in Phoenix. She had me watch West Side Story and South Pacific because Barbara was really big into musicals and my mom hated musicals. She says nobody breaks out into songs. Like, yeah, they do, Mom. Your son does it all the time. Okay. Come on, guys, let's see. I'm every woman. Yeah, so they do. They do. And dance, I like to dance too. So yes, people can literally break out into song and dance. Okay. So musicals actually do make a lot of sense. Yeah. You could literally do that instead of have a gang fight. All right, gang fight. We're going to a gang fight. We got to get dressed just right. Got to look mean and uptight. We're going to a gang fight. I'm going to start a gang fight. I think I'll run for political office. I want to be a prime minister. Okay. Or they're all dictators. Legislation and dictation. They dictate legislation to you. Yeah, you don't have a president, you have a legislative dictator. And it's not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. The same thing, okay, that crucified Jesus Christ and turned him into a war god. Oh, sound familiar? The more things change, the more they stay the same. And Joe Biden was the same thing. Oh, yeah, he's Hagar, the comic strip. Lost his mind because he knew he was crazy. Okay, like Caligula and Claudius. Yeah. Claudius lost his mind and went crazy. Yeah, Claudius wasn't supposed to be. He ended up being the nice guy that ended up being Caesar, and it didn't last. He married a really attractive woman that married him to get his trust so she could assassinate him and replace him with Stan. Okay. There would still be Stan. Yeah, that's what happened with Claudius. But Claudius was a great guy. Claudius was a great guy. Claudius would have said, hey, let's live the ways of David, Solomon, and Jesus Christ instead of us wackadoodle boner heads called Romans. Hey, was Claudius before or after? Don't know. Don't care. No, I really don't. Why? Because it's not like they didn't have examples of better people than what they were at that time too. Okay? You don't have to go outside the group to say, we can be a better person than this. You don't think there were good Italians that they persecuted and killed like they do with me? Okay? You see what I'm saying? Okay? I'm an American. I'm not a foreign potentate. What happened with me is, there's a difference. No, there's not a huge difference between me and Krishnamurti or Suzuki or Selassie. With Selassie and Suzuki, they fulfilled prophecy, and people knew that, and then they took them and said, here, do this, amazing monkey boy, do these amazing prophecy things. And they did. Okay. But it was never good enough because it wasn't magical enough. Okay. They turned the bullshit into mythology. And remember Judah Krishnamurti? No, then said, they will take... you can sit down and tell them, well, you might not be sexually reproducing is because you're wearing tighty whities. You might want to try the boxers there, boy. And no, they says no. Instead, they'll go kill a dove and take it to a statue of the Buddha and pray to the Buddha for more, for a baby from the clouds. Son of a bitch. And Suzuki had the same problems in Japan. Okay, and Selassie, oh gosh, Selassie had worse problems than both of them. Cool, because Krishnamurti was taken to Britain where they felt more civilized because their institutionalization was more intense, and it was more modernized. In India, it was still very much class warfare through, the hierarchy hadn't changed for hundreds of thousands of years. In Europe, it had to change because there was so many different tribes fighting for survival. When you fight for survival, you have to do what you perceive as compromise to appease the masses, or they will they'll guillotine you. Okay. Remember old Nate Reynolds with his T-shirts, never underestimate the power of large groups of stupid people. It's like, yeah, we're going to elect a president. We're going to do what the people want. Barbarous or Jesus? Barbarous. We know, right? Science gave us that. More love than humanly possible. Yeah, science gave us food products in a bag called dog food. It's more love than humanly possible. Science says so. Science says so, and it's on TV. Hills in a bag is more love than humanly possible than Jesus being the example of you guys are all like barbarous. Okay, go buy your dog food. How much is it? How much does it weigh? Because they're mean. Yeah. No, when Shelby bought the dog food that he wanted, I think it was out of commercials. He looked at the ones he recognized. It was more of a recognized brand. And it was the advertising. This is supposed to be really good for your dog. And that's why he bought it. Because he was diabetic. So he wanted to buy the healthiest food he could for his dog. Because he looked at it and saw the advertising. And that's why he bought it. I knew why he bought it. And Trisha didn't. He was being dumb. I could have saved you $8. And I was like, no, I think he wanted to buy the best food for his dog so his dog would be healthy and didn't have to go through diabetes. Which the dog's going to go through the same crap that they do living outside the airport in Houston. Yeah. Anna's dog that stayed outside there, and it's close to the road, and it died from cancer long before Zeke succumbed to old age. Zeke lived to be about 18 or 19. Smokey lived about to 12 and then died from cancer. There wasn't any other. She couldn't. She keeps the dogs outside and not inside. It wasn't, and then they had more herbicides and stuff, with that, and it was real hard on him where Zeke got to stay inside, and I did work to keep the herbicides and everything at bay for me and Dad and Zeke and the cats. And so it just depends on, it hasn't anything to do with ignorant or arrogant or whatever. It just has to do with where, your laboratory study group puts you. And they are vicious and mean. And so, I had to learn on my own about college. I went to Air Force just to pay bills and just try to have a reproductive sex life because it was happening to me economically with Patrice's stuff. Yeah, it was hard. She was real difficult. She was going to do whatever she wanted to do. And she didn't care about the consequences, but the consequences were constantly affecting Mom. And, of course, it affected me because it was affecting Mom. And then I felt like I abandoned Mom because I had to join the Air Force and leave her there to deal with it. But, I felt I was being selfish because I'll eventually want to have a wife and kids myself and try to do the same thing. I ended up the same thing. Oh, yeah. What science wants, science gets, right? Okay, I love you guys. We'll talk later. Peace.